Welcome everyone for a special edition of Hardcore Wrestling Rants. I am your hardcore host Rick Head, and I'm joined by the hardcore crew. Where tonight we're going to talk about tonight's Full Gear. So first, let me introduce the Lord Skeleton himself, Joseph Knight. Joe, what's shaking?
Nothing much. I know I must be tired when I almost heard you say you are Ric Flair. So
I said no such thing. I admit nothing.
okay.
Woo!
Anyway, and of course that was Lance who just chimed in. So Lance, you're from the incomparable Lance Moss. Lance, what do you think about tonight's pay-per-view?
A hell of a lot better than anything the other company's done in a long damn time.
Yeah, well, and tonight, there was like 10 matches. It was like 3 hours long, almost 4 hours long. It started at 7 o'clock.
In damn near midnight.
Yeah, so without further ado, we're going to just roll right through these. And we're going to start with some of the kickoff shows. You know what? There was a pre-show, and first it was the Breast Friends versus the Factory. And Danhausen was a member that it was supposed to be a 5-on-5, but Danhausen was late in the game. So basically, not a bad match, guys, but really nothing great either. He had some kind of a spot where he did a teeth spot. Lance, could you talk about that? Explain what that is?
Okay, back when he was on the independent scene, because the Danhausen gimmick is a horror-based gimmick. Apparently, he collects teeth and does that spot when he's the more violent form of Danhausen, and that's what we got introduced to tonight.
All right. Joe, what was your take from that match?
Match is pretty decent. Nothing to write home about. The Danhausen spot coming back in, coming in doing his little skit. Yeah, like I said, Rick, it's just mediocre at best. It was a good match, but it was anytime you involve the Factory against any type of team that's not jobbers, you know they're going to lose. So not a good match, but nothing to write home about.
Fair enough. We saw Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage during the AEW World Limited Tournament, but apparently Starks is not done yet, despite beating Cage. So right now, guys, we still have the other side of the bracket to work on. Lance, what's your thoughts on this match?
It was a good match. I could have sworn I heard somewhere the end of the tournament was tonight, but I guess I must have heard wrong, but all right.
Okay. Well, it's you said the semifinals, so
yeah.
Okay, but which means I'm guessing there's one more. I thought this was going to be the last one, too, but
I think it's going to be Wednesday.
Okay.
Actually, guys, tonight was supposed to be Ethan Page taking on Ricky Starks for the in the finals themselves, and I guess they either didn't do the match on Rampage for Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage. That's why they put it on tonight, or they wanted to, prolong this and maybe throw it on Dynamite for ratings, because it was advertised whoever the finals were supposed to be here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I kind of got all confused myself. Eddie Kingston fought, forgive me, I don't even know the gentleman's name, if I can pronounce it, Jun Akiyama. Joe, help me out here.
That's close enough. We'll stick with that.
Okay.
A guy from Japan.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so horrible. But it was a very great match. It was a very brutal back and forth match. Yeah, Kingston eventually did get the win with a bending back hit, and he got the 3 count. So, guys, again, this was a brawler match. This is not a wrestling match. Eddie Kingston has never been a brawler. But then again, this wrestler who's over from Japan, he's clearly, obviously, more of a powerhouse, or as they call over New Japan, strong style wrestling. Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. The match could have been better. I'm not a big Eddie Kingston fan. Those chops in the corner were horrendous. They were horrible. There were times he looked so winded. You know, a decent match. You know, it wasn't something to take home. Another thing that it was good as great it was on the pre-show because this match was not great. Even though this was something that if this was done in Japan, oh hell yeah, this just would have been a totally different scenario. Because June is part of the DDT Pro Wrestling over in Japan, and that strong style of his, he's a killer over there. I guess they didn't want to make Eddie Kingston look that bad, and I guess this was one of his idols that he wanted to take on, and the guy obviously was being paid enough to take the loss. But it wasn't another. Again, good thing it was on a freebie because for this to be on a pay per view was horrible. Wouldn't work. We will go on later on once we start doing the pay per view matches when we will be expressing bad matches. But for now, Rick, eh, it's a typical Eddie Kingston match. Nothing to be surprised about.
All right, Lance, over to you.
Yeah, like decent match, okay for a kickoff show. But I think the best part about this whole part was Eddie Kingston on the mic afterwards. Yeah, he praised the Japanese guy, talked about his career a little bit, and then he just went full ham, hyping up Full Gear.
He became the hype man for the show until they told him get off the mic, you asshole.
And they opened up the match with a cage match between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and this has obviously been a huge rivalry that's been going for quite some time. Uh, Throughout the match, Jungle Boy was pretty much the underdog. He was pretty much literally gotten beaten into a bloody pulp. Um, Jungle Boy started to turn things around, and then of course Christian tried to get involved. He stole the keys to get the cage, which is expected, but the referees wasn't having it, and he was quickly ejected. That's when things started to turn around. Uh, During that whole scuffle, Luchasaurus was able to throw in a couple of chairs and throw in a table. Uh, Long story short, Luchasaurus wound up setting up the table, but as karma usually goes, he's the one who went through it when Jungle Boy climbed to the very top, hit him with the elbow, and then finished him off with a snare trap for the win. Finally, Joe, this whole feud could be put to rest, and Jungle Boy can move on.
Yeah, definitely. This was a win that was going to make Jungle Boy's career. This now, in my opinion, moves him up to the All Atlantic Championships. Should be his next run. He needs a singles push, and now he needs a singles champions push. This match was pretty good. They did have a little scary spot where since Christian Cage unlocked the cage door and Jungle Boy was climbing up to the top of the cage, his foot did slip because the door was open and the ref had to hold it shut. Good match did not make both guys. This match made both guys. It did not make one guy look weak. Did not make look like the other guy look stronger. They both got their equal spots and made Luchasaurus look like the monster that he is. Made Jungle Boy the incredible underdog that will never say die. And I'm gonna say this, Tony Khan, stop bringing in these lousy has-been WWE people, which we will talk about later, and push these young guys that you have in the company. Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, all these great young guys need that better push. So, Rick, there's, to my opinion, Luchasaurus did not suffer much. He did great in this. You know, Jungle Boy he's elevated now. He should be pushed away from these guys, get away from them. Maybe Christian is going to turn against Luchasaurus for failing him again, and you're going to see a big swap and change right there. But yeah, next stop, All Atlantic Championship for the Jungle Boy.
Lance, your thoughts on this match?
Hell of a match. This is one, like Joe said, this made everybody look strong. I mean, granted, it's going to take Luchasaurus a little bit to get his heat back after, well, I don't know, a few weeks of just beating up some job guys. He'll be right back where he was before this match. And Jungle Boy going for the All Atlantic title. Yeah, it's a good fit.
We saw the return of the Elite, and they actually had their song, "The Wayward Son," which is well known. There's some speculation that he might keep it, or this is one offer. Joe seems to think it was a one offer. But before I get to that, the match against the Death Triangle was incredible. Phoenix got the win via disqualification. Actually, I don't know if they got disqualified, but he countered the One-Winged Angel by using Pac's notorious hammer, ring bell hammer, and they was able to get the win. If I'm not mistaken, that was a pin, right, guys?
Yes.
That was a pin.
Okay, so, but apparently this match is far from over because now AEW has advertised a best-of-7 match for these guys. So for the next week or so, we're going to see these guys going back and forth. So, Joe, a lot more to see.
Great match, a lot of high spots, a lot of wrestling, a lot of comedy from the Elite. Their entrance alone, what do you expect? They're executive VPs in the company. They got that great theme song that fit them, the Wayward Sons by Journey. It was a really good way to enter. Now, in my opinion, if you start using the same song over and over and over, it's just gonna kill it. So obviously, what they're gonna probably do, this was probably a one-up just to bring them back. Match was great. It really set up a lot because now you got Pac and Omega. You got the Bucks against the rest of the Death Triangle. This was such a match that it was like you could not get more even than it on anything on paper in ring. Both teams were so equal that they played it right. And instead of the Elite walking away with the championship that everybody probably expected, because after all, they are the executive VPs, they can do this and they've been reinstated. Everybody was expecting this. And we kind of got to see the little scenario where Phoenix did not want to do the hammer bit that Pac was telling him, but he finally did do it, and he rolled up Omega. That's the big thing. He rolled up Omega to get the win for his team. So obviously this is going to take it to the next step. Now that they advertise the best of 7 series, this is the best of 7 series. If not only did certain greats do this, the NWA United States Championship between Nikita Koloff and Magnum TA, that's one of them. Also Booker T, and if I'm correct, it was the Chris Benoit also did it in the WWE for the same
WCW.
Championship. No. Was it WCW?
It was WCW. Yeah. I remember it vividly.
Okay, so because I think also WWE did it once, I think.
That was with Matt Hardy and MVP.
Okay, there you go. So it is that series of matches is going to go. I predict it's going to go even to the end, and maybe you're going to see the Elite go finally over cleanly with all this. Good match. I think this was one of the best matches next to the cage match. For me, it was just another action-packed, non-stop. I was wondering, Rick, did these guys even breathe?
I'm not even sure, but you know what? When it comes to the Death Triangle and the Elite, I wouldn't be surprised if they were moving non-stop. I didn't really, like you said, I didn't see anybody really take a breath, so to speak, unless, of course, they were out and, taking the time out, but there was always action inside or outside the ring. Lance, your thoughts?
Well, amazing match. Dare I say, the way the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks work together is on par with the way the Usos and the New Day work against each other.
I could say, though, I mean, these guys obviously have all worked together for many years, since, probably even before AEW, but I think they have gone toe to toe many times inside of AEW, so they definitely know each other, so they have that chemistry.
Yeah.
So
The only difference between the Elite and the Lucha Bros and the Usos is that the Usos got them one up for DUIs.
oh Jesus. All right.
What? It's it. No.
Hang on.
It is.
Let's
Here
go
we go,
at-
Lance. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lance. Lance.
Anyway, so you know what? Moving on, we don't need to worry about the disclosures. Um, Now the next match, we saw Jade Cargill take on Nyla Rose for her TBS Women's Champion. Um, this match was okay. It was a back and forth match. Again, nothing for me. I wasn't really too impressed. It wasn't the worst match on the card, but it wasn't the best. Jade Cargill wound up getting the win for using the Jaded. Lance, your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, like I said, was it anything to write home about? Not really. But honestly, we were all just looking at Jade Cargill's ass.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? She actually was. She came out in a Thundercats Comic Con, so to speak, outfit. Very sexy. So, Joe, over to you. Your thoughts?
Definitely. She came out of Chitara for all you Thundercats fans. Got the hair, got everything. Looked the part really, really good. Um, every time she comes out for a pay-per-view, she's always altering her gimmick. And that's a promising person when you do that, because that shows you're serious about the business and you want to enhance your character. Unfortunately, she was going up against a failed male, and Nyla Rose. And here it is. Here we go again. I can see why they wanted to give Jade the powerful challenger. They want to put someone in there that can actually match her strength for strength. But like always, the failed male never makes it. So that's it. That's done. They should kick that person out. Maybe put her to swim or something. So honestly, it was better than I anticipated, because of the fact that Jade, it looks like she's slowly becoming the better worker. It's just the person she's in the ring with. Great look she had. Decent moves. Too bad the opponent was a piece of shit. Otherwise, good to have her still reigning as the TBS Women's Champion.
All right, the next match, Chris Jericho had defended his Ring of Honor World Championship. Let me get those words out of my mouth. Against Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. There was actually one point in the match where Sammy was trying to pin Jericho, and or even when Jericho was going to win, and Sammy pulled him off. So there was a little bit of dissension in the ranks, so to speak. But at the end of the day, Chris Jericho wound up getting the win, a Judas effect on Claudio for the 3 count. So, Lance, I guess Jericho's still the reigning champion.
Yep, he's still the Ocho. But there was so many false finishes in this match. It was insane.
Yeah, it was. Every time you thought that was it was like, oh shit, like all the time. I think if it wasn't me, you or Joe, it was all 3 of us. It was just unreal.
Yeah, it was an incredible match with 3 guys who 2 of them have held the Ring of Honor Championship prior, with Claudio and with Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, whichever one you want to go with. Jericho being the reigning Ring of Honor champion, and Sammy going for that first time for that type of championship. Right decision. It looked great. They got in there. They teased. They did that little turn against each other. But in the end, I think being part of their Jericho Appreciation Society is just won out, and they'll probably just make up at the end. Overall, great match. Jericho, for his age, he still impresses me. And I don't impress easy with today's workers. But Jericho's not even today's workers. He's yesterday's worker. And he still gets in there, looks still like a young guy, does everything to put everybody over, and he still gets the match done. So kudos to Chris Jericho. Great match, I think. this is elevating the Ring of Honor Championship. Now Tony Khan needs to stop being a WWE mark and needs to literally put these guys on their own television station.
Yeah, well, speaking of Tony Khan being a WWE mark, the next match, Saraya defeated
Oh, here we
Dr.
go.
Britt Baker. Yeah, this match was lackluster. I was like kind of like, I guess we all knew pretty much who's going to win. Saraya did get the win. Baker did put up a fight, but I think Lance, when you see the obvious outcome and how it's going to play out, it's like you just don't even really pay that much attention to the match itself, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Grant, Saraya had been away from the ring for 5 years. She was rusty as hell.
Well, not rusty enough to get the win, obviously. Joe, your thoughts?
Uh-oh. Lance, let's hit him
Joe
with
at
that.
SplosionZone.com.
I know, yeah. Let me tell you the dumb slut that they gave a job to. She gets in the ring. She's more fucking makeup than anything else. She's fine eye candy. There's nothing wrong with that. But I was praying throughout the whole match that she would break her neck. And I was hoping that because we don't need her in the ring anymore. She's taken a valuable spot for somebody else. And to put her in there with someone like Dr. Britt Baker, okay, I hold Britt Baker in the same level as Charlotte Flair, a good worker who can get the stuff done, can do a lot, got the promos, got everything, and they put her in here to lose to the only claim to fame this bitch had was she had a threesome and came on a belt. That's all she ever did that mattered. Let's face it, her championships were lackluster. The match tonight was the worst match of the night. She was stumbling a lot. They played on the whole neck injury. Yeah, and it was such a waste. It was such a waste of time for Britt Baker to be in the ring with this has-been. Tony Khan, what the fuck are you? Unless this girl's blowing you, unless you're pulling a McMahon and she's blowing you backstage, there's no reason to have this has-been on the roster, let alone be active in the ring. You know, this match stunk. It was an embarrassment to Britt Baker, and honestly, Rick, hopefully she gets in the ring again and snaps her neck because she is worthless. And this is not a personal attack. This is a business attack because it's nothing personal against Soraya Page, whatever the fuck your name is. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn about your family. I don't give a shit about your career. You guys always been, your family's been known to be fucking stealing money and never showing up for matches. So you learned from a great family. Yay. But you should never be in the ring ever, ever again. I'm done.
All right. Well, that was rant number 5 for the night. Now let's move on to the it's the TNT Triple Threat title match where Wardlow defended his title against Ring of Honor TV champion Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, this match was pretty much started as of last week, but we knew that Hobbs was getting underneath Wardlow's skin, and eventually Samoa Joe was getting a little pissed off with the whole situation, so he turned on Wardlow. Long story short, Wardlow was pretty much had Power Hobbs beat to a T. He had started power bombing him 4 or 5 times, and then out of nowhere, Samoa Joe grabs his title, slams Wardlow with it, knocking him out, and considering it's a triple threat, there's no DQ. So he takes Wardlow, chokes him out. No, I'm sorry, I correct me if I'm wrong. It was Powerhouse Hobbs chokes him out for a quick win. So Samoa Joe is now not only a Ring of Honor TV champion, but the TNT champion, Joe.
You know what? This is the battle of the beef. These were 3 big guys who this was not going to be a scientific match. This was a ground and pound from the get-go. Wardlow slimmed down. He looked good. He was pretty quick on his feet. Powerhouse Hobbs is a Hobbs. He goes in there and he does all his power moves. Samoa Joe's probably the most well-rounded out of both of these guys. To put the belt on him kind of gives him not only double championships, but you not only do you get to see him now on Ring of Honor or wherever they do shows, or and on basically on AEW television. So he's, I think the decision was right. I think you're going to see Wardlow probably do something else again, move on. Who knows? But you know what? Again, for the what type of match it was, you were not going to get anything scientific, Rick.
Absolutely. Lance, over to you.
Yeah, like Joe said, it was three just beasts beating the shit out of each other. And honestly, Joe winning the title, good call. Now, Tony Schiavone, that was not a pinfall for Joe. That was what we call a submission. You've been in this business so long enough to know what the hell the difference is.
I know, I remember that. Even Taz corrected him on it. But overall, again, like I said, it wasn't a bad match. For what it was a power, like that. As Joe said, it was three big guys just, going to town. So I myself found the match, I liked it, and I really thought that Hobbs was going to take away the win, but surprisingly, they gave it to Joe. Moving on, Sting and Darby Allin took on Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett in a no DQ no count out match. Now, unfortunately, because it's no DQ, that means that Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh took part of this match. The match pretty much went all over the arena, up and down the ramp, in and out of the ring. But at the end of the day, Darby was able to hit a coffin drop on Jay Lethal and get a 1-2-3 for the win. Lance, your take on this match?
Pure insanity from Darby Allin jumping off a ladder onto Satnam Singh, which he told that big son of a bitch, you better catch me, to Sting showing up and beating the shit out of Jeff Jarrett from start to finish. Pure insanity.
All right, Joe, your thoughts?
Well, the significance of this match was, three former, should I say four, because you got to count Sanjay Dutt on the outside. Four guys that were in TNA Impact under Jeff Jarrett. So, funny how history plays itself. You've had Sting, you had Jarrett, you had Jay Lethal when he was Black Machismo, and he did the gimmick of Ric Flair, and yes, Sanjay Dutt. So all four of these guys were former TNA wrestlers who happened to hit the ring at the same time. Good outside action, good wild action. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed with the Stinger. He still can go, but the whole covering yourself up with a whole sweater and all that, I understand he's not this physical specimen that he was, but neither is Jeff Jarrett. And everybody knows my feelings for Jeff Jarrett, the man who has to work everywhere because Lord knows Karen Angle needs a facelift, needs a boob job, needs that mansion. He will take any work, and there's no. And I said it straight when we were watching this. There's nothing wrong with getting work, but this guy is the ultimate opportunist. He doesn't care who he works for. He's loyalty to no one. But at least he did some stuff in there. It's wrestling. It was sound. Again, good match, good move by Darby Allin. The guy put 50 more pounds to get your build up, and this guy's a future star. He's a star right now, but he can go higher and higher. So, Rick, again, I'm a little bit disappointed with the Stinger, not actually taking the time to get his body at least a little bit toned and showing it off a bit. But otherwise, decent match.
Jamie Hayter took on the interim AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm. And this was definitely a good match. The two went back and forth, but Hayter definitely was the stronger of the two. At the end of the day, Hayter wanted to do it all by herself, but of course that didn't happen as Rebel and of course Britt Baker also came down once or twice. But eventually it wound up helping them out as Baker was able to rip off a turnbuckle, and Tony Storm pretty much ate a blind turnbuckle and got the win. And it was Hayter got the win. Is now the interim women's world champion. Joe, your thoughts?
I'm glad that Hater won. There were times when we were watching this, we kept groaning because we said, "Oh no, they're gonna give it to the dumb blonde, the girl who can't even hold a wrist lock." You know, she was Tony Storm was sloppy. You could tell the fans were not even with her; they were all full Hater. And here's what surprised the shit out of me. And okay, they made her want to look strong in this match. That's fine. That's okay. But she took a belt shot to the face by Rebel. She took a curb stomp on a belt by Britt Baker. She took some finishing moves from Hayter, which should have put her out a long time ago. And this girl gets kicked out. Then all of a sudden she tastes the turnbuckle. She does this face like, holy shit, I'm fucking dizzy. And finally takes the loss. Good spot, good idea by the management of putting the belt on Hayter. Lord knows Tony Storm wasn't getting over. The match was hurt. Wrestling stinks. In a level of wrestling, she's like a 2. Her promo is -1. So she's an eye candy. Yeah, she's about 7 or 8. But everything else is so subpar, Rick. This was it was an embarrassment to see her in there. She did some good stuff. You could tell some of her moves were sloppy, but thank God the era of Hayter is upon us. And all I can say is, Tony Khan, stop glazing over the former WWE people. Give Jamie Hayter the full championship. No interim bullshit. She should be the AEW Women's Champion.
I fully agree with you. We've had this conversation more than once on how we all feel about the term interim that Tony Khan so much has been embracing over the past year or so. Moving on, the Acclaim faced Swerve in Our Glory. This is the third match. And we all talked about it that Swerve and Keith Lee started to have differences as the match started to develop. And so sooner or later, eventually, Keith was just sick of Swerve's bullshit, and he walked out. And this pretty much gave the Acclaim the opportunity to retain their titles as they both took out Swerve. So, guys, this was a decent match. Not the best match, but I really can't have anything to complain about it, Lance.
Yeah, I mean, decent match, but we called it.
Yeah, exactly. Joe, your thoughts?
Very good match. I'm not a big fan of the Acclaim and their stupid scissoring shit. Honestly, to me, the whole scissoring is, I don't know, maybe a sexual thing, but that's my opinion. But overall, good match. Very, very predictable. I mean, this was so predictable. Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Ronnie Millsap, and every other blind person in the world saw this shit coming. You know, it was not surprising. So right now, I'm going to say this, guys, all over internet right now, it is Jade Cargill's picture of her being in the Thundercats outfit at Full Gear. So that's the main post flying around here. So just thought I'd throw that in there. That's one of the main pictures now that's being gone around. It's just her as the Thundercat, Chitara.
Now we come on to the main event, guys. It was Jon Moxley versus MJF for the AEW World Championship. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, we all looked forward to this. This is a match we all thought was going to be like the match of the night. And it was drawn out and dry. Halfway through the match, MJF did a pile driver on the apron, gave Moxley a pile driver on the apron, and he looked like he took out his knee, and he started screaming. So for a second, we thought, is this legitimate? Of course, it was just storyline because that's where Moxley continued to focus on it. And for this match, it was like 75 to 80% all Jon Moxley. MJF finally gets a bit of the upper hand, and he decided to grab out the diamond ring. Then, of course, this brings out William Regal, who just kind of gave him the look, and so he said, "You know what? Fine." Threw the ring out, but then, of course, in a weird turn of events, which I had called, uh, Regal passed him his knucks. And of course, while the ref was down, he knocks out Moxley and gets the win. 1, 2, 3. Your new AEW World Champion, John MJF. Joe, interesting turnout. So how's this going to affect? How do you think it's going to affect with William Regal and the Blackpool Combat Club?
It's going to affect them big time because I could see Moxley getting in his face and having, Claudio and Yuta hold him back while, Brian is going to be like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, so leave it be. The match was pretty dry for most part. It had some good spots, but you could tell Moxley he was strong. They made him strong in this. MJF was holding on to his best, and like every MJF match, he has to find a way to win. And when he was putting on that ring, Regal came out, tell him, no, you're not doing it, tosses it out. To the surprise, you could tell it was coming. Regal gave him some brass knucks, and he used it and got the win. Good call. MJF finally topples you could say a former WWE guy to win a major championship in AEW. I think the guy is as close to a complete package in wrestling. He doesn't have the build as big as anybody else, but he has the mic skills, the ring skills, and the ability to draw heat, Rick. This is the Rowdy Roddy Piper of this day. And that's a big accomplishment out of me saying that. He's the Rowdy Roddy Piper of this day. And him being AEW World Champion, that's just going to keep him flying and flying. And I can't wait to see the promos now.
Absolutely. For the record, MJF hates the word promo. He actually hates that term. He actually said that in a recent interview at Vulture. I forget the words that he likes to use. I'm not going to go back and look for it right now because it's not really an issue. But Lance, over to you.
Well, pure and simple, the devil got his due tonight.
Yeah, and that's very simple. And yes, I finally found the words that he was. It's called oratory exhibition. Sounds like somebody who wants to experience like rim jobs or something. So guys, that's...
I think they do that in porn films. Well, let's ask Soraya. She should
yeah,
know.
Well, guys, that's it for this special edition of Hardcore Wrestling Rants. Be sure to join us every Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We can come on live. We also have our occasional friend, the Wrestle Gamer, Billy Bujo, who comes on. And, of course, our lovely Vicious Vixen, Zoe Nightshade, has come back into the fold. So, for the Hardcore crew, I'm your hardcore host, Rickhead, saying, we'll see you when we see you.
Buy the shirt.